There is an incredible power in making mistakes. And not just in making mistakes, but in putting yourself in a position where success is an option. And by success being an option, failure is also an option. Now, what I'm not going to do is try to encourage you for 18 minutes to go out and make a mess of your life and make a bunch of mistakes. But I do want to encourage you, I want to leave you with the idea to look for these opportunities where success and failure are both very possible. Now, why am I qualified to talk on this? Well, it just so happens that I happen to make a whole lot of mistakes. That's pretty much what I do all the time. If you don't believe me, you can ask my wife in the middle of the networking session, and she'll make sure to tell you. I make a lot of mistakes. It's just what I do best. But without further ado, and before I get into talking about how many mistakes I've made, I do want to share some of the successes that we've had. And all these successes have one thing in common, and that is that it was possible to have a success, but at the same time, it's very possible to have failure. So in the last 10 years of my life, I've adopted this mindset of just going for it, just putting myself out there in situations that have maybe positive, maybe a very negative outcome. And this is the part of the talk where I'm a little bit uncomfortable because I don't like talking about myself a lot, but I want to share this because there's some cool things that have happened from having this mindset. So I'm 29 years old today, and within the last 10 years, here's some of the stuff that I've done. I've learned Mandarin Chinese. I've been an all-American javelin thrower. I hosted my own radio show, volunteered at Hurricane Katrina. I was an all-American race walker, top 10 in the country, married the most beautiful woman in the world, which is my wife here in the stage. Traveled to more than 20 countries and 40 states. I became an intelligence officer in the United States Marine Corps. I was trained as a sniper commander and commanded over 500 men at the age of 24 years old. I learned to speak, read, and write Arabic. I fought the war in Iraq in 2009. Together with the Iraqi army, we arrested or detained more than 65 criminals and terrorists. Became a semi-professional beach volleyball player, earned my CPA license, became the chief financial officer of a local fundraising company here in town. We had our first child together, and I'm currently enrolled in one of the top MBA programs in the country at UCLA. Now, that's a little bit embarrassing to read to you, but it shows that when you do these things, it gives you the chance to make success. Now, I have an equally long, if not longer, list of failures that happened throughout that whole last 10 years. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my current adventure. My current adventure starts back in 2007. As a young Marine, I was riddled with a sickness, a disease called arthritis that was causing problems in my body from my knees through my hips to my back and my elbows. And it became to the point where it was almost debilitating for me to keep up with the pack, to be able to hike the heavy packs, to carry all the weapons and stuff that we had to do. I didn't know what was wrong. I was an athlete. I thought I was eating pretty healthy. But some buddies in the military said, well, why don't you try eating an inflammatory-free diet, basically taking the inflammatory foods out of your diet. And at this point, I didn't really want to, but I said, whatever, I've got nothing to lose, and I'm really struggling right now. So I tried it. They said 30 days. I tried it for 14 days, and I felt like a kid again. I could breathe through my nose. I was walking fine. I felt like I was 10 years younger. And I was amazed by that, but more than amazed, I was inspired to figure out what was going on. Because there's no way that there's not other people having the same experience. So I started looking in deep. I took a deep dive on our food system in the United States of America and what I was putting into my body and the effect that that had on the health that my actual body was having. And it caused a crazy rabbit chase of information. I started learning about real food, what real food was and what it wasn't. We started chasing down not local, but organic fruits, vegetables, nuts, all these things, and we started really learning about what we were putting in our body. The thing that we looked hardest for was really healthy meat, and we had a very, very hard time finding this stuff. Instead of finding stuff that was raised outside on grass like we would expect, this is what we were finding. This represents 99.9% of the chicken raised in the United States today. And as a matter of fact, the beef, pork, and dairy don't look too far off of this. What you're looking at right now is about 600-foot long tunnel, 40-foot wide, with about 35,000 birds stacked inside of that area. This is not weird. It's not out there. This is the industry standard. And like I said, almost 100% of our food is raised in this situation. We did not like this, and this was not interesting to me. I didn't want to put that kind of food in my body. So all of a sudden, back in 2012, my family was sitting around Easter time. And we said, well, wouldn't that be funny if we took this little patch of grass in our backyard and bought some chickens and put it out there? Ha ha, big joke, right? Very funny. Nobody thought it was going to happen, nothing real. But all of a sudden, my brother, Rob, disappears from the room. Nobody knows where he went. Comes back about 5 minutes later, and he says, hey, guys, surprise, surprise. I just ordered 50 chicks, and they're going to be here in 2 weeks. Nice. We had no idea what we were doing. So at this point in the story, we freeze frame. And basically, this is the first opportunity for success, but most likely 90% chance failure, right? We had no farming background. I grew up in Seattle downtown. None of us knew what we were doing whatsoever. And so this was a major chance for failure for us. Well, we got those chicks. We put them outside on grass where we felt like they belonged. And we basically made every mistake in the book. We tried to read, we tried to look online and figure out what we were doing, but nothing substitutes for basically doing it and making the mistakes yourself. So this is actually our first batch of chicks that we ever had. We put them out in the way that we thought they should be, outside on grass, no GMOs, no soy, none of that stuff, pretty much like they would be 100 years ago on a basic little family farm. Now, to our surprise, we thought that we were going to be eating these ourselves once they were up and we harvested and all that stuff. Well, we put a couple posts up on our social media on Facebook, and we said, if anybody would like to reserve one of these for themselves, here's a little link, and you can reserve one or whatever. And we thought maybe 4 or 5 people would buy them, and that would help us offset the cost of raising these. 2 weeks in, so 2 weeks after this photo was taken, all 50 were sold. Deposits collected, totally sold out. And my family was actually pretty mad, because we thought we were going to be eating good chicken for a while. So the next month, we ordered 100. Same thing happened. As a matter of fact, we had a waiting list of more than 100 people that all wanted to get their hands on this stuff. The month after that, 150, then 200, 500, 1,000 went by, and the business really started to take set. So it started out as a hobby and turned into an actual business. Here's a photo of, as we continued to grow, the demand seemed to continue to grow too. We were really just a very simple family farm, raising things the way that we wanted to eat it and trying to feed our neighbors. And there was no more to the ideology than that. Well, it wasn't more than a few months later when we ran into our first major obstacle, and that's this guy right here. So if you're from Temecula, you understand the coyote problem. From the period of July to October, we lost more than 1,200 chickens to coyotes. And that was a very difficult time. We can sit back and laugh about it now, but for a small family farm, a small business like ours that's all self-funded, no outside money, nobody's independently wealthy here, I remember being down to $5 in our bank account and wanted to go to Home Depot to get some zip ties to do the next step, and we had to wait on that because we were basically out of money. And so by the grace of God, we were able to basically save this business from this coyote thing. But that was another one where I'll freeze frame and I'll say, look, we made a huge mistake. We didn't know how to do this. We didn't know how to combat the coyote population at all. But we would have never learned if we would have put ourselves out there and basically done it. The next phase in our family farm, in our little business, we thought that it would be fun to get 5 or 10 sheep to help graze the grass down, to do some of this stuff. And we said, oh, that would be great, Thinking back and just saying it to you guys, you already know where this story's going. We said, oh, that'd be great, And then right around the same time, a small organic farm up the freeway, they called us and they said, oh, yeah, we've got, a couple sheep if you guys would like to buy them. And we said, oh, that's perfect. It works out just right. And they said, well, the only thing is, now we have 100 and you guys only want 5, but just take the 100, you'll totally figure it out. It'll be fine. And in our naivete, we said, okay, it's 100, perfect, let's do 100. For anybody who's had livestock, especially sheep or goats before, we had the worst summer of my life, chasing sheep around, trying to give enough hay and enough grass to eat, and it was a horrible summer. But I learned how to be a shepherd. I learned how to run sheep, and we've turned that now into a successful part of our business as well. But it was not very fun. Here's some of the success that we have had, though. So we practice something called regenerative agriculture. That's like sustainability is kind of like treading water, right? So we want to go above and beyond sustainability. And when you run animals the right way, what you should see is an improvement in the soil. So we want to see the soil getting better and better and better every single year, not getting worse. We're not doing farming practices that rape the soil and get rid of all the nutrients. We are really trying to build that ecology back into the soil. And so this is just a quick time lapse. 3 months is all it took to revitalize basically bare dirt soil into something that really had life inside of it. So where are we at today? Now today, like Jim said, we've got one of Southern California's most prominent pastured livestock businesses. And we're very proud to say that only 3 years into this, we actually have a successful business on our hand, and a business that we feel very, very passionate about. Our next big thing, home delivery. So hopefully, a year from now, when we come and do another TED Talk, I'm not talking about the big mistake that home delivery was, but maybe I will be, right? We're also working with a couple local ranches now. we're selling food from our neighbors' farms to do turkey, to do lamb, beef, pork, all kinds of different animals, and honey. So why does that matter to you? Well, how does that make any difference to you sitting in the audience today? You're not going to go start a farm, most likely. If you are, find me afterwards and I'll help you out. But why does that really matter to you? So the reason I put this photo up is because I believe that it's all about windows. And it's about having the eyes to see these opportunities when they come by. It may be no more than 2 or 3 seconds flash by where you may have the opportunity to get yourself into a situation where you may have a positive or may have a negative outcome. But what I want to encourage you out of is that sedentary lifestyle where we're just trying to stay within our comfort zone all the time. I want to encourage you to go out and make the mistakes, or at least be open to making the mistakes. Be open to failure. Be open to mistakes, because that's really how growth comes about. And I believe that growth really isn't possible unless failure is an option. So I'll say that again because I think it's important. But growth is only possible when failure is an option. And hopefully, through this talk and through talking afterwards, I can start to convince you guys that that is true. So I'll leave you with this quote from a pretty famous guy. Anyone who's never made a mistake before has never tried anything new. Thank you very much.